The last time the Lions and the Rams played in the wild card game, there was a hit done on Tyler Higbee from Kerby Joseph that Matthew Stafford was definitely not a fan of. However, though, as the game approaches this week, Matthew Stafford had some very choice words, yet once again over said hit, and we're going to talk about it. Stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, we are going to be talking about, again, obviously, another thing to do with the Lions and the Rams game, which is fast approaching us, and I can't tell you how grateful I am that that's happening. However, though, most of what I've been talking about so far has been about certain things as far as where I think there are possible matchups, where I think there are mismatches, how the Lions can potentially take advantage of certain things, and so on and so forth. This episode is not going to have a damn thing to do with anything of that particular nature. Rather, this is actually going to do with Matthew Stafford providing, I'm going to tell you, rare bulletin board material for an opponent. And the fact that it's rare is because, one, Stafford's not normally the kind of guy to say something about an opponent, or if he does say something about them, it's usually not going to be something that's of a negative nature or is going to catch people's, attention in the way that it's, okay, now you've said something we're going to definitely have an issue with. But this definitely happened. And what exactly am I referring to here? Some people probably already know what's going on here because there was information that was pushed out late last night about what I'm referring to here. But let's just give some background context here. Obviously, we know last year in the wild card round, the Lions and the Rams, they played in a very highly publicized, very contentious game. And one of the things that made that game so very contentious was there was a hit by Kerby Joseph late in the game on Rams tight end Tyler Higbee. Now, why was that particularly a contentious moment? The reason why was because of the reaction that quarterback Matthew Stafford had after the hit by walking up and talking to safety Kerby Joseph, who initiated the hit. And obviously we know this because there was a video that was released by the Rams that had, Matthew Stafford mic'd up, and after the hit, he walked over to Kerby Joseph and he called him a dirty as you-know-what kind of player. Obviously everyone knows what I'm referring to here. And that was something that caught a lot of Lions fans' attention because they were kind of like, okay, that's a pretty, BS kind of a call coming from Stafford. But at the time, we kind of were just like, okay, obviously Stafford lost, obviously the Rams lost, we're just gonna, chalk it up to the fact that Stafford's frustrated, Stafford, whatever, and we're just gonna leave it be. We're gonna have our moment to talk about it and move on. But, for whatever reason, Stafford brought it up again. Now, in the way that I'm talking about this, Stafford himself didn't just bring it up out of the blue and just decided to talk about it. Rather, what happened, he was sitting down for an interview, and it was done on a show, podcast, whatever the thunder you want to call it, called Rams Revealed. So I'm assuming, once again, it's something directly related to the Rams, and they're just doing, like some team-sponsored content. And during the interview, the guy that's, running the interview, he asks Matthew Stafford about that hit once again that Kerby Joseph had on Tyler Higbee. And there was a specific quote that Stafford had that I can damn well guarantee you this. It is going to spark the ire of a lot of Lions fans. What did Stafford specifically say about the hit for the second go-around? Here's what he said about the Kerby Joseph hit once again. He said, "I don't like it when other players take shots at guys that I feel like are not the way the game should be played." Okay. There is something about that quote that for me as a ex-player, granted I never played professional, but I played in college, I played in high school, and I know as a NFL fan, that statement bugs me. And it bugs me quite a lot. Not only just for the nature of the statement, but because of the context surrounding the damn hit, particularly in light of how the NFL is played right now based on the damn rules. First and foremost here, what I am going to say about Stafford in a positive light on this is this. I understand that Stafford is sticking up for his guys. I understand that Stafford is trying to be a protector. He is trying to be a leader. He is trying to, provide that role for his guys. He's trying to provide that role for his teammates. I can understand that. That's your role as the quarterback, and it's also your role as the most senior player on said roster. However, though, that's about as far as I can take it with Stafford in this particular quote here, because what I don't particularly like about this is that Stafford had already made a comment about this, 7-8 months ago during the actual game itself. And the fact that Stafford, in all that time since then, could not think of a better way to, when asked said question again, come up with an answer that was at the very best neutral, or could be like, hey, you know what? I was in the heat of the moment and I said something that, I was trying to be a guy to defend my players. And he kind of addressed that a little bit during the interview. But what particularly about this, statement that annoys me so greatly is that, again, he is affirming, he is doubling down on the fact that he believes that Kerby Joseph, as he said, took a shot at his guy. So what he's in essence reestablishing is that Kerby Joseph deliberately did what he did just to cause spite, malice, harm, pain, injury. And he's saying that he does not feel like that's the way the game should be played. Well, here's the problem, Stafford. And I already know for a fact that for Lions fans, they're going to say the same damn thing. It's a damn legal hit. It's by the rules, a legal, clean hit. So you're over here whining, you're crying, you're moaning about something that in the actual NFL rule books, it is a completely legal, clean hit. I don't understand why then you knowing that that is a completely legal, clean hit, because Kerby Joseph wasn't flagged on the play and he wasn't fined after the game for the play. The NFL is particularly good about doing those sort of things. The NFL affirmed that that was a completely legal hit. In fact, they affirmed it in the sense because it was the second time it happened, because Stafford himself actually pointed out that it happened weeks earlier for freaking, the Vikings and former Lions tight end TJ Hawkinson. But the reason why this is bugging me is because Stafford is saying, well, he doesn't feel that's the way the game should be played. Well, here's the problem, Stafford. How else are these defenders supposed to play the game? Freaking the way the NFL has made it now, they almost make it damn near impossible for these guys to try and tackle them. Hell, they just got rid of the hip drop tackle. It's like, at this point, the NFL has almost made it ridiculously difficult to try and actually tackle players. And let's just, understand something here. Kerby Joseph is a freaking safety. Most safeties are not going to be able to match up and take down a tight end, especially one of Higbee's size, just by saying, oh, I'm going to run up and just run through him. Because, that then's going to lead into the problem of, you're trying to go for the head. You're trying to hit a defenseless player now. This isn't the same kind of football when freaking, Ed Reed and freaking John Lynch were out there and they could just freaking run through guys. That kind of football's gone now. You've now got to be much more selective. You've got to be much more, deliberate with how you're going to try and tackle guys, because the NFL has specifically made it a policy that you are only allowed to tackle guys a certain way. So for Kerby Joseph, I can totally understand why he made that move. Okay, you can't tackle the guy high. Chances of trying to bring the guy down through the middle is not exactly good because you are significantly smaller in both size and weight. So the only option you have is to go low. So for me, it's like, what the hell else is he supposed to do, Stafford? He has to somehow get the guy to the ground. The only way he's going to get him to the ground is by taking out his legs. And I'm just going to say this right now, as a former player myself, I don't have the ability in a literal split second to try and slow down and say, oh, I got to make sure I deliberately don't hit the knee as I'm trying to tackle a guy while he's trying to get away from me and, not try and hurt him. It's football, Stafford. Stuff like this is going to happen. And when it's a completely legal allotment within the rules, you're crying, you're moaning, and you're talking about something, and again, it's completely allowed. That's the part that bugs me, is that Stafford, again, wants to call one of our guys dirty, but there's nothing about that within the NFL rules that is considered dirty. And I guarantee you this, if you were to ask any other player, would they look at that situation and feel absolutely sorry, absolutely horrible for what happened to Higbee? Absolutely. You obviously don't want to see anybody get injured. But again, from the perspective of the safety, from the perspective of the defensive player, he ain't got many options here. So he has to go with what can work. And since the NFL has limited to what he can do effectively, there's not much else he can do. That's why for me, this whole situation is just absolutely, it's asinine. It's just, ridiculous that Stafford, being the professional that he is, because he's been in the NFL now for a while. Hell, he was a rookie back in 2009. So the fact that him, having been in the NFL for as long as he has and seen the changes of how the NFL has been in terms of their rules, wants to again go after a guy that's only doing what he can within the rule book as designed and, sponsored by the NFL, I think is just a grave injustice to the player. It's not like Kerby Joseph is deliberately going out there trying to hurt people. He's not targeting people. He's not out there trying to collect bounties like the freaking Saints tried to do. He's just trying to do his job the best he can. And Stafford wants to freaking chastise him for it and call him a dirty player. That to me is not fair. That to me is absolutely inexcusable. It's like he's only doing what he can. If the NFL were to actually look at this and say, okay, if you don't like that, we've got to find a different way to make it to where these players can still tackle without exposing players to injuries like that. But that's where you start getting into the problem we are now, because the more you take away stuff like that, the harder it gets, which now means there's another way that somebody's going to get exposed to injury. This is why the way the NFL has been doing the rules lately, I've not particularly been a fan of. But unfortunately, the powers that be have made it that way. So Stafford, here's my point. If you've got a problem with how Kerby Joseph tackled, don't get pissed. Don't get angry about what Kerby Joseph did. Get angry at Roger Goodell. Get angry at the NFL Rules Committee. That's who you should be angry with, not the player. But anyway, I'm going to end this episode because I could go on about this for a while, and I don't want to do that. I've said my piece. I've made it abundantly clear where I stand. Even as a Lions fan, this to me has nothing to do with, being a fan or not. This is just simply looking at football and being like, dude, this is nonsense. But anyway, folks, having all said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. I also encourage you all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. But I also want to encourage y'all, make sure you hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Again, the more we're able to get people to hit that bell notification icon, the more likely you are to come back to the channel. I also want to encourage y'all to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. The more we can share it, the greater the channel grows and spreads. And with that being said to everybody, I hope you are having a great day. I hope you are doing something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And whether or not you are a long-time viewer or you just tuned in for the very first time, I hope you all enjoyed the content. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.